You're watching ASOTUCon 2024, presented in collaboration with Reynolds and Gubagoo.
Thanks to our studio partner, Automotive Mastermind, for making this panel happen.
My name is Glenn Pasch. I'm the CEO of PCG Digital Marketing. I am absolutely honored to host this panel, especially with these four people who are incredible leaders in our industry. We have, I took my glasses off, I need them. Erikka Tiffani Wells down at the end, General Manager, Wasler Hyundai in Minnesota. With over 18 years of experience in frontline auto retail management, digital marketing, and Wasler Automotive uses single point of contact. And that is this panel, the conversation and or debate between single point of contact in the store or the traditional sales model. Next, we have Michael Wood, General Manager of Checkered Flag Motor Company, overseeing Jaguar, Land Rover, and Volkswagen in Virginia, and their sales process uses single point of contact as well. Next we have, well, we can give him a round of applause. Next we have Scott Simons, General Manager, Managing Partner at Valley, CDJR, Honda, Nissan, Subaru, and VW since July 2016, with a wide array of experience in multiple brands. Let's hear from Scott. And lastly, Mr. Glenn Lundy, President and CEO of the 800% Elite Automotive Club, with experience in dealer management, growing his former store in Kentucky over 800% in 5 years. Today, he inspires and coaches over 180 dealerships nationwide. Give it up to Glenn. And he spells his name correctly with two N's. So we both agree on that. So that's it. Yes, we do agree. All right. So this is going to be a conversation, a little bit of a debate. I will moderate as best I can. We will also open it up to questions. So in the app, if you use it, there is a Q&A, live Q&A. You can type your question in or just scream it out and we'll come see you and we'll get you going. Because our goal here is to answer your questions, to talk about traditional versus single point of contact. So first, what we're going to do, Erikka and Mike are going to talk about single point of contact, what that means, why they think it's beneficial, and then we'll go to Scott and Glenn to talk about the traditional model. So please, Erikka and Michael, make the case for single point of contact.
So for me, it's all about the reduction of the customer's effort to transact. And that's kind of the modus operandi of our entire dealer group, is that every facet in which we touch the customer, how can we make it easier and more seamless for the consumer? So for us, the single point of contact just made complete sense. We were looking at, from beginning to end, from lead generation to delivery of the vehicle, the consumer not having to need more than one person throughout the entire process. And that includes the F&I disclosure in a legal and ethically compliant way.
What he said. No, seriously though, it's absolutely right. We want to make the customer's experience effortless. We want to empower our salespeople. One of the issues we feel like is that there's no trust. There's no trust between the customer and the salesperson. There's no trust between the salesperson and the sales manager, between the sales manager and the finance manager, between the GM and everybody. So at the end of the day, the trust issue has always been there, and you suffer from the syndrome of TTMM, which is talk to my manager, right? Everybody always has to go behind the veil and talk to a manager to get anything done. And what people want is effortless, easy experiences, and I think single point of contact offers that.
All right, great. Scott and Glenn, the other side, traditional way that we've always done business, and there are a variety of ways that people do, even within traditional, to do that. But make the case for why the traditional model, a lot of what they talked about, having manager intervention, having a separate F&I department, other people who are possibly, someone might say, considered, well, they're the experts at this. Why does that model still work, and why do you think it is a better model for today?
Right. Well, it works for us. First and foremost, I understand they run great dealerships and their groups do a really good job. And I'm part of Carter Myers Automotive Group, so we have 24 stores in now 4 states. And we have looked at that model. We're always looking at different models within the industry, what's working, what's not working, and we try to stay on the forefront of technology and what the consumer wants. For us, the traditional model works for us at this point. I'm not saying we won't ever change. I'm not saying I won't even learn something today, because I think the kiss of death is we've always done it that way. We take a look at how long is the consumer there and what is their experience. Based on our survey scores, based on our feedback from our consumers, based on the President's Award that we've won every single year, we feel like that our model, which we do promote from within, we have, in Valley alone, we have 22 managers, 20 of them started selling cars there. And we do send them to F&I school to get them trained because we give them a career flight path. Product specialist, sales rep, sales professional, business manager, sales manager, GSM, GM. If you want to come work for us at Valley and you're a general sales manager at a store, you're going to start off as a product specialist because we have people there that want that opportunity that are training for that opportunity. So I'm not saying that we wouldn't look at that model, but for us, based on the survey scores and the feedback from our consumers and the time in dealership, our model works for us at this point. So that's what I'd like to share about it.
Glenn?
I don't know. Do I need a mic? Can you guys hear me? Yes? Yes. Okay, you can hear me. You hear me better. Yeah, so when I look at all of this through the eyes of the consumer, right? We always want to look at things through the eyes of the consumer. And I do believe that the consumer wants an expert every step along the way when it comes to such a big transaction. And so when I kind of look at the end-to-end model, I look at that, and to me, that's not a progressive model. To me, it's more of a regressive model. Because when I look at I work with a lot of independent stores and some smaller franchise stores, and what I see in those stores is I see one person kind of doing everything. And they do a pretty good job at every stage of the way, but they're not an expert at anything. I look at how when Ford first came out with the assembly line, they didn't say, hey, we need to hire people and train them how to build a car. We need to hire people and train them how to do each individual step. We have an expert that puts in engines. We have an expert that puts on doors. And we do that so we make sure that the consumer gets a quality experience all the way down the line. And so I believe in a traditional model, and this is something we tend to do in automotive, by the way, is our sales manager who's supposed to be managing and leading people also ends up being the person who's buying cars, who's also the person who's handling the marketing, who's also the person that's also the person that's also the person. And that particular model, to me, doesn't really make sense as far as delivering the best experience for our customer. Our customers need to be in front of experts on every aspect of the purchase all the way across the way. And so I believe we should be adding more experts into the process to make sure it's a great experience versus having someone who's well-rounded or above the average even at all the things.
If I may ask a question.
Yes, sir.
What do you then define an expert? Is it just the fact that they have the title as a finance manager that then makes them an expert? Or is it the requisite training, the files and learning that they go through, and the legal and ethics trainings that they go to that defines them as an expert?
Well, I think an expert is someone who dedicates their life to that particular field, right? So, for example, like a band. If I'm putting together a band, I want an expert drummer who might be really good at playing the guitar, but they dedicated their life to drumming. I want an expert drummer. I want an expert guitarist.
How did that expert drummer become an expert drummer?
What's that?
Was he born a drummer, he or she born a drummer, or did they learn that skill set over time and through training?
Learned it over time and training, full commitment to that particular aspect. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I believe the customer is actually the expert. They've already done the research before they come in. They've already decided what they want. They've kind of looked at rates. They kind of have an understanding of what they want. And then what they want, someone who's going to make it easy and transparent and fast. Customers want convenience. And so if you can offer an experience with one person that takes them to the beginning and the end, and there's not the back and forth that sometimes come from dealing with the expert, because what do most customers say? Why don't you bring that person out here? Let them talk to me directly then. Because if that's an expert, then why am I talking to you and why am I dealing with you?
And I'm with you on that. Speed, efficiency, and incredible experience, right? At the dealership that I used to run, we sold 198 cars in 2 days on a Friday and a Saturday. We were closed by 6 o'clock on Saturday, on that day. We did 100 on one day, 98 the other. So we were able to get the customer through that process. We got 100 customers through a process in a 9-hour window with having multiple stages that keeps them flowing. Everybody's trained, they're experts in their field, and therefore they are actually more efficient, even though there's multiple stages and multiple people that they work through.
Well, let me throw this out there because both of you are touching on one thing is, does the consumer really care about if that's an expert? They just want to maybe deal with one person, and because what you're both revolving around is time, right? So if you're saying, well, I don't have to have the handoff, which is time, you're saying my process is so streamlined, there is no gaps of waiting. So that's accomplishing both of that. But are we saying, are we really just talking about ways to save time? Because I'm not leaving you with someone else. And now maybe those 2 days were just everybody was crazy speedy and your volume accomplished that. But I'm sure all of you out there, because I've been in dealerships where there are customers who are sitting and waiting and waiting. And I go in the morning and I come back from lunch and I'm like, they're still here? What are they still doing here? And it's like, what is going on? Now, there's always those times where it could be their credit, their whatever. But it's I think we're all circling around time, but I just think there's more opportunity for time to fall into a traditional model versus a point of contact. Is that why you guys changed?
I can't speak for the Wasler group, but I think part of the reason why we changed is that we were tired of boxing the customer into a process that was beneficial only to the dealer. Instead, we looked at it holistically and said, how does the customer want to transact? And then how do I make that profitable? And I think that's kind of the whole idea behind single point of contact. And I do agree that I think the time is definitely an issue, but I think that, I learned this back in the day in 2013 in Deerfield Park JM&A training, that there's a difference between dead time and engagement time. And when that person is with them the entire time, that the idea of time itself changes, in my opinion, because it's no longer they're waiting for that next person to come out. They're not trying to reset the meter for the customer when the F&I manager comes out to do the interview. It's just fluid and it's fully engaged the entire time. I grew up in the traditional model originally, and then we converted. So I've had the I've been fortunate enough to be able to do both models, and there is a little bit less of that wait time, but I don't think that that's really the answer there. I think it's the experience that the customer has by maintaining that relationship with one person throughout. I would even offer that it would probably be a better experience if it was one person through sales and service, that if you were a portfolio manager as opposed to a single point of contact for just sales. I think if you were to meld the two together and you, sir, were just my service and sales person, that for me would provide an immensely greater experience because it goes against all the issues we have with communication, et cetera. But for me, I think single point of contact is about listening to the customer and reacting, because both models can provide you with excellent CSI. We both know how to coach the customer. But what's really going on in the customer's head? How do they feel about what's going on in their experience? And with us both being negotiation free and single point of contact, that doesn't mean we're not profitable. In fact, we've both found that our experience has created us an opportunity to increase front-end margins even higher than those of our traditional dealers because of the experience that the customer gets. And that is the key point to me. It's the experience. How are we creating something that's demonstrably different and better than my competitors within my market space? That's what single point of contact does for me, because we're the only ones in Hampton Roads that do it. So for me, it's about converting that Krispy Kreme donut customer to a Dunkin' Donuts customer. I need to be demonstrably better than my competitor.
So I can understand, and maybe everybody else can too. Do y'all have managers or leaders that help with like the financing? Like, let me give you an example. We really went after the Spanish market, and we have a person that started, one of our finance managers that took him on himself, and he started Facebook groups up and everything and had people that come in. When you have an ITN customer, which means a work visa, we have to sometimes submit them to multiple banks. Sometimes we have to get 6 co-signers. And then when you see that family leaving in that van and they're crying when they leave because we put in hours worth of work, in your model, who would get involved to help that 480 credit score, 520 credit score, or somewhere where you got to get 6 co-signers involved in order to help this family?
So we have sales managers, and our sales managers do participate in that process to make sure we get tough deals done. So there is a backup.
So do they go interview that customer to find out
Absolutely.
where their co-signers?
Single
so
point of contact doesn't mean the sales manager isn't involved. In fact, they're more involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They're more involved
the
because they're not ass managers, which is sitting on their ass at the desk, waiting for the back and forth while they coach you up, right? And try to load your lips. Instead of loading your lips, they're actually right there. So think of it like a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you get a table touch, right? The sales managers are involved from the beginning to the end of the process to support the salesperson and back them up versus telling them what to do because they don't trust them in the back office.
In our model, they're out there doing the interview. I mean, this finance manager even goes and helps them set up bank accounts at their credit unions to help advise them because he wants to be a trusted source. So the leaders do get involved, which they do at our store also.
Yeah, but you're going to model your thing around this percentage of customers who may need extra help when the majority of our customers come in, they're able to get financed easily. So why make your model around the minority versus the majority?
Well, I'm in a rural area. So a population of our towns, we're at 22,000 people. Average family there makes less than $50,000 a year. So we have to get creative a lot of times, and we're at 200% market penetration. So we even have to penetrate the areas that are around there. But yeah, a lot of times our people need help from experts that have a good relationship with the banks that could call in a favor and explain what happened. So it sounds like to me, we're kind of similar, you know.
Yeah, and I hate that we keep getting caught on this term expert, because I don't believe that a title makes one an expert. I believe experience makes one an expert. And I have plenty of what we call elite product specialists, which are the ones that are the true single point of contacts, that are significantly more knowledgeable than the finely tuned assassins that are being paid six figures plus in their respective finance departments, that, to your point, sit on their ass 97% of the time. Get a finance manager to come do a cash TO for you.
Well,
Yeah.
not to
We're
mention,
all gonna
then
be waiting for that one.
your business is leveraged on this one person who, when they go on vacation, what happens? Who, when they decide to quit and leave you for another dealer, what happens? So now your whole model is tilted as you go back and try to find this replacement finance manager who gets you all the gross in the back end, where I have 15 mini finance managers. I can easily in 1 minute look at the Stone Eagle report and tell you which one of my salespeople may need some help on products per deal or on their penetration or in any one area, and then focus training on that particular person, and then build up a whole bunch of 15 mini assassins versus just letting my business run on one.
I think the fundamental difference for the management side of things is that in the traditional model, you are siloing the information, because that is what provides you your power as a sales manager or a finance manager. So me as the finance director, the more I know and the less you all know, the more power I have. Whereas in a single point of contact model, it's more about the transfer of knowledge that the top has to everybody else. Because it's like my mentor said to me one time, he goes, I don't want one mic, I want 20 little mics. And that really resonated with me, because I was one of those people. I felt that the more information that I could maintain to myself, the more valuable I was to my business. And I was so wrong. My power was in being able to take the information that I had learned and teach all of these new people coming in to make them the experts that you speak to. Because I agree, I think customers do want an expert. And that's why we require them to go through files training. That's why they're required to go through, my staff has to go to 8 trainings a month in order to maintain their elite status. We do company-wide trainings, we do JM&A trainings. And so we're constantly making sure that they are the experts, to your point. We want to make sure of that.
Well, and I think, there are stores out there. There's stores out there that have the type of management that you guys are referring to over there. And then there's also a lot of stores out there that have absolute incredibly trained assassins and experts in each of these positions. And so it's interesting, like when you mentioned the word silo, to me, we're talking about the consumer experience. And I think the consumer experience can be looked at from different perspectives, right? So a consumer experience, for me, I'm a social guy. I like shaking hands. I like talking with different people, right? You guys know this, right? And so the idea of being with one person the entire time for that transaction, that doesn't really appeal to me. You have these organizations filled with amazing humans, amazing faces and different dynamics and different personalities. And I like the idea, if I run a store, I like the idea of a consumer getting to meet my guy Dylan over here, who's got an amazing personality in one sense. My guy Evan over here, who's an expert in F&I. He did 8,000 deals in 5 years. Like, he's absolutely the man. I want him to shake hands with people in the service department. I want him to shake hands with, I want them to have an experience where they get to meet my team, because I'm proud of every member of my team.
Do they care?
I believe they do. That's I'm saying. My personality type, I wouldn't want to go in and sit with one person from beginning to end and not get to know the company.
Care. If I told my customer I can get them out in 30 minutes, I think that's what they care about.
I can still get them out in 30 minutes.
But they met 18 people, so then if they didn't meet 18 people, maybe you could have got them out in 12.
I'm just saying, I can get them out in 30 minutes.
But at the end of the day,
difference with I look at it kind of like this, right? I don't want the chef to be my server.
We're not a restaurant.
I want the chef back there cooking my steak,
but we're not a
and
restaurant.
Making sure it's absolutely perfect and it's the best experience for me on that end. And I want my server to be an absolute expert on this experience on this end. And I want to know how this whole organization works and all the people within it. Like, that to me is an amazing experience.
But in that same, if we're going to continue with the restaurant analogy, in that scenario, you don't get to meet those people until you get to that point of the process. And we're saying we want the same exact thing, but we want it up front. I want the manager to meet them as soon as they get there with an early flyby so that when they come for that exit TO, it isn't the first time they met the manager. They've been a part of it the entire time. They, in fact, met them early on in the process. They met them when they took them out to the car to do the trade appraisal with them, not being Oz behind the curtain and coming back and be like, 30 minutes later, throwing your keys, hey, it's worth $25,000. You know, none of that stuff happens anymore. So I think we're kind of saying the same things. We just look at it from a fundamentally different perspective. I want every single assassin on my floor to be in front of every single customer, not just when they meet that point. Because if I have you come into my dealership, it might be my senior team leader is the reason why you buy. But if you didn't get to the point in the process in which you met the senior team leader, how am I selling you a car? But if I introduce you to everybody up front and get collaborative efforts from everybody working together, getting rid of the I and the us and replacing it with a we, then the customer wins. And that's what it really truly is about, in my opinion, is transacting in a way in which the customer is satisfied. And again, we can get CSI scores. We know that for sure, no question about it. It really starts to come down to market share pre-COVID, in my opinion. Is, you know, look at SPOC dealerships versus traditional dealerships pre-COVID, and I can only speak to my market, but in my market, we were gaining market share year after year. And unfortunately, I looked at COVID kind of as a negative because it leveled the playing field. It made everybody ostensibly negotiation free. And so that kind of really hurt us, and I'm sure you're feeling the same thing. We're having to do what we did pre-COVID when we first went to negotiation free. If Scott was in my market, I'd be making my price point so painful that he's not even willing to consider that deal so I can earn your business, so that I can go back through the 4 or 5 years of raising prices by creating an experience. And I think that's the fundamental point here, is that if you can create an experience for your client that is so good, it doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes or 15 hours. If they're engaged the entire time and they're working with people that they want to work with, they're going to be happy. No question about it.
Awesome. I love it. Let me just jump in here. I had other questions, but we have questions from the audience, and I'd rather get your questions answered. And if we go over a little bit, it doesn't matter. They should have given us an hour. Anyway.
At least.
At least. And we're on too small of a stage. No, I'm kidding. This came from Danny out there. What is the lead opportunity volume per salesperson and conversion to sales in single point versus traditional? So is there a difference between?
I wouldn't know if it's a difference, but I say my salespeople can probably handle about 120 leads. We are, somewhere between 15 to 18 sales per person. So the key is that even though the salesperson, you may think, hey, they're doing this whole process, that they can't do more, but it's time that they're using to build value in the process, that I'm going to be the person from beginning to end. So we're doing a lot of this stuff, being able to start the process online. So the customers then feel empowered to know that they don't have to go ask their manager to run a lease for them. They don't have to ask their manager for the programs. Our salespeople get the programs. They know the programs. They know the incentives. They know the difference between 1 month and the other, whether it got better or it got worse. So by empowering them with the information and knowledge that I don't have to go ask the finance manager, are the new programs better, the customers have an easier experience from the digital retail point, from the moment that the lead hits, versus a salesperson have to waste time to go talk to a manager to say, can you work up my lease quote? Which has always been a pain point, right? When you think about the internet departments at dealerships, traditional dealerships, you don't get them empowered usually with all that information, which means that even when they have a customer ready to buy, ready to negotiate, they still have to go ask someone else for permission to make this deal. In the one point of contact, they're empowered from the beginning.
Okay, one question about, and goes back to single point. Has your PVR number suffered without the specialization, as they were talking about, of the salesperson, finance manager, et cetera?
The exact opposite. It's actually gone up quite a bit, PVR and PPD. And I think that has a lot to do with not just being a single point of contact, but also negotiation free. Because if the customer's coming in and they're on a $500 payment type car and they really need to be at $400, if the product specialist, sales associate, whatever insert verb you want to, noun you want to call them now, is just trying to sell them the car they want, as opposed to finding them the least expensive vehicle that best fits their needs, then you're having a different conversation when it comes to the single point of contact side. So if I find out that all you really need is heated seats and blind spot, and I can get you that car for $375, but your pain threshold was $500. Now, when it comes down to having that insurance conversation, we've created more payment for you from the beginning.
Great.
Go
ahead.
Question.
Go ahead.
Can I
Yeah, you.
Just real quick, because I'm definitely curious on this. So One of the things that we train on that we teach in the way I ran my store was something we call the 8-5-3-1 formula. This goes to what Danny was talking about, the leads. So 8 leads should turn into 5 appointments, which is 3 shows, which is 1 sold, right? Per salesperson per day that they're at work. It's just a formula that we always worked off of. So the way we built it is I had my frontline salespeople, which are receiving my internet leads, phone leads, et cetera, and then they're handing off to salesperson when the customer actually gets there in the store, so that as more leads are pouring in, because we tried cradle to grave for a little bit, and what we found is the busier we got, now my leads couldn't get attention because everyone was with a customer, right? So I'm curious in your model, like how many, so when you get to that point where everybody's with a customer, what's happening with leads that are coming in at that point, and how is it capped? Do you have to continue to expand people? How's it work?
Well, I can answer this one. So for us, our sales managers are part of that process too. So what we have is called a war room. When our salespeople are not on the floor with the customer, they're in the war room working leads, right? So they're always working that funnel. Managers support that. So at any given time, if a sales manager is not helping that kind of process, they're in the system, in the leads, continuing those conversations that those salespeople were having. So it's a seamless, always building, keeping the faucet going in that process. So it never drops the ball. We're constantly moving. We're constantly letting everybody participate in that. We don't have internet teams. So our salespeople, sales managers, and everyone work the CRM the same.
I personally work the CRM as a GM. Like I'm in there, I'm sending videos, I'm doing confirmations, I'm finding the areas of opportunity, the low-hanging fruit where a product specialist has ghosted that person and I can re-engage that customer for them, because I want them to see if I'm willing to put in the work, then they will be as well. So it goes back to the I versus we mentality. And I believed that when I was in the traditional model, the BDC did their job, I. The sales manager did their job, I. The salesperson did their job, I. Whereas in our model, it's just a collaborative we. If a lead is available and you can take the lead, take the lead. And it doesn't matter what your title is, because the customer doesn't care what your title is. They have a question and they want an answer. So somebody needs to answer that question.
So that handoff that happens in person is the same handoff that happens digitally. So we just call it a digital TO. So you TO it to your sales manager. Hey, I have a customer coming in a few hours, but my sales manager is going to follow up on this conversation. And then digitally, that conversation continues to happen, which means the customer, when they walk in the door, now has met those people digitally, which makes it, again, back to the model. I've met you already. We've already talked. I've seen your email. Let's communicate, in person the same way we did online.
Yeah.
All right, let me just, as we wrap up, each of you, starting with you, Erikka, if someone's out here asking and concerned about something that you had, like a learning lesson, if I want to go down this road, 1 or 2 hurdles, maybe you give one, Mike gives one, something they need to look at, and then Scott and Glenn, if you're staying in the traditional model, 1 or 2 things that you think in this next 6 months to 12 months, they need to be focusing on to make that experience? Because you've all talked about experience, and that's your goal. What are you seeing out there that they need to tighten up, watch for? And then for some people who might want to switch to single point, what they should look out for before they dive into it?
Training. We do a ton of training. People do not train enough. Our salespeople don't get training. Our sales managers don't get training. We train all the time. Every morning we train for 30 to 45 minutes. We're training on products. We're training on internet conversion. We're training on our sales managers on better TOs. We're training on trades, our salespeople getting involved in the trade process early. So you have to be able to invest a lot of time in training if you're going to make these 15 assassins. It doesn't happen overnight, right? We're going to push a volume model. We recently changed our pay plans to a volume model, and as we continue to try to gain market share and with the volume model, we have to be a competitive edge against our competitors who can negotiate, who aren't single point of contact. So that training is pivotal and key. And if you're not willing to invest the time, don't do it.
I always thought it was funny when I first got into the car business, to her point, the lack of training. So prior to the auto industry, I worked for a company called Smith & Nephew. It's a Fortune 100 orthopedic surgical sale company. And before I was allowed to even go visit a single physician, I had to train for 3 months. I had to do an ACL repair on a cadaver before I could go talk to the doctor about the tactile feel of the meniscal repair kits, et cetera. And then I got into the automotive industry, and day 1, I get put with somebody. Day 2, I get put with somebody. Day 3, I said, I don't know where those people from day 1 and day 2 are, so can I just try this on my own? And I stumbled across a car deal, and that's just kind of how the automotive industry has always been for me. So I really think that there has to be an evolution when it comes to the idea of training and investment in your people, if you will. And then more importantly, if you're going to try to make this, it's not like getting into a cold pool. Don't dip your foot in. You got to just jump in. You're going to lose money at first. You're going to lose good people at first. But guess what? We are all replaceable. And eventually what you will find are people that think like you, that want to work in your facility, that understand that you're trying to deliver an experience that has not been in our industry. Because the reality is that we are creating a model to overcome the sins of our forefathers in this industry. At the end of the day, the people that came before all of us in here created the negative connotation that the automotive industry has by the consumer, and it would be illogical to think that we can continue down the traditional path and right that mindset that the consumer has about our industry. I believe we're in an existential battle when it comes to the dealer franchise model, and unless we change something and offer a different viewpoint to our consumer base, we're going to go the way of direct to consumer, just like EVs. 57% of EVs sold last year were Tesla. And to that point, there were no finely tuned assassins that were presenting those F&I numbers.
Yeah, I think first and foremost that we all need to continue to learn and see what's out there and not close our minds off to any way of doing business. And we don't do that at Carter Myers Automotive Group, but we don't plan on it. I truly believe if you take care of your people and give them a career flight path and treat them with respect, we mentor our people, we pour into our people, we get to know them on a personal level. Our managers are leaders are extremely active in our sales process. Like I said, 20 of our 22 managers started off selling vehicles there. But if we take care of our people, they'll take care of our valued guests, and then that's how you stay in business for 100 years. So no matter what model you choose, if you don't take care of your people and show them a path to where they fit their dreams within our dreams, you're not going to be in business no matter what you do. So it was great being up here with y'all, and I look forward to learning more about it.
Give it up for Scott Simons. Can you guys give it up for Scott Simons? I love this guy right here. Take a picture. Yeah, to wrap, and you know, I love Michael and Erikka. These are amazing people, just amazing humans. To what Michael just said, and I'll kind of reiterate from the beginning, and I kind of disagree with Michael in the sense that when he says this is something we've never done before, I feel like it's exactly how we started a long time ago, was cradle to grave. You have one, and there's independent stores all over this country that are still doing that. There's one point of contact that goes through the entire process. I don't necessarily believe that that is in the best interest of our company or for our customers. So we're still going to disagree a little bit on that, Michael, but no love lost. No love lost. With that said, I do just want to leave you guys with this. I mean, what an amazing time to be alive, right? It's 2024. There are incredible things that are happening out there. COVID was the best and worst thing to ever happen to this industry in many ways. But luckily, we've been prepared and positioned to where not only can we thrive in a season such as this, but we can really do remarkable things that we never could do before. There's a guy named Ross Dawson. If you get a chance, look him up. Ross Dawson is said to be the greatest futurist of our time. He's like the Nostradamus of today. And Ross Dawson said that technology is going to advance 2,000 years of human evolution in the next 100 years. And when you rewind that, if you do some backwards math, that means we're going to evolve 100 years in the next 5. Think about where we were 100 years ago, early 1920s, the Model T, to where we are today with Tesla putting vehicles in rocket ships and launching them into space, right? That's the type of evolution that we are going to experience as humanity over the next 5 years. Please make sure your dealerships keep up. Evolve with the customer, keep a pulse on it, make sure that you're investing in training your people, get in rooms where people don't necessarily always agree so that you can push yourself out of your comfort zones and really scale and grow. Hopefully 800%.
I like that subtle hook. I like, always love him, always marketing. I love him for that. So again, what? Yeah, I know we're up against the thing, but before you have questions, yeah, you can go ahead. I just want to, before the question, want to thank everybody for attending. These 4 people, I know them. I just met Mike, but I know all of them.
Thank you.
They will answer your questions. So find them while you're here. Sit down with them, talk with them, connect with them. They are some of the most generous people I know. They will help you. As I said, I was honored to be up here. I hope you got a lot of value. One last question. Go ahead.
Hey, this question is for Erikka. Wasler Toyota, how many stores? Are you single point of contact on all of the stores now?
Yeah.
And Michael, your comment on market share being the real test, and man, if you guys are watching the numbers, Erikka, that Wasler is just like amazing. I hope you can tell everybody what's happening.
Yeah, Wasler has 28 stores in 4 states. They're all single point of contact. They're all negotiation free. I think what we're really up against is irrelevance of certain positions, and I think that's what scares people, right? Manager irrelevance, finance irrelevance, and we're afraid of the technology that's actually there to empower us. And it's not to eliminate jobs, it's to allow people to do something different with their time, right? So if you can figure out how to maximize people's time, then you elevate people to a higher position to do something else with their time that now the computer systems can do, that other people can do by balancing that across many people and not just one, back to creating those mini assassins.
All right, can you give it up for my wonderful panel here? Thank you all.